Hi, I'm Cassandra. So I'm back and we had done the ribbon skirts. So now I'm just going to show you how to put in pockets on a skirt. So I actually have a skirt ready to go here. I have all of the ribbons sewn down and then I have each panel. So before we get to the part where we're sewing the pieces together, that's when we're going to put in our pockets. So I'm just going to move one piece for now. So on the back side, actually, because I know I'm going to be folding this over, I always leave 4 inches myself because I use a bit thicker ribbon at home, elastic at home. So I just use 4 inches and I actually just lightly drew a line at 4 inches where I know that when I fold it over, that's where I'm going to be stitching. So I know that my pockets don't have to come higher than this point. So I just quickly drew where my seam is going to be coming. And then I've actually already cut some pockets. So these ones are about, I'd say 10 by 8 they look like. This was just all that I had left from the skirt. Usually I would actually make them a bit longer. I don't like how short this is, but we're just going to work with what we have. Usually I would say about at least 13 inches long, but we're just going to have a little bit short pockets today because that's what we have. So I'm just going to take 2 of the pieces, and because my pattern does matter which way it goes, I know you're not going to see in the pockets, but I still like to line everything up perfectly as if you would be seeing it. So my strawberries are going to be hanging the right way. So my skirt is the same way. And then what I'm going to do is, so when I'm sewing my pockets on, I'll be sewing them like this. But right now I'm just going to trim it. So I'm going to, on the back side, this will be facing upwards. And all I'm going to do is take this bottom corner on the outside, pull it, and then this top line is going to line up to that line I drew. So this line on the side of the pocket is not going to be lined up directly on our skirt seam because it's at a bit of an angle. It's actually just going to be sitting completely flat against here. So we're going to be trimming. So I'm just going to pin these into place so I can quickly show you what I mean. Okay, so I have this piece pinned on, and then we're going to do our trimming. So you see the line that I drew at the waist. The top of the pockets is going to line up perfectly with that, and then it's going to come straight down, and then this corner is going to line up with our outer corner. So when you flip it around to this side, this is the part that we will be trimming off. Sorry, just this tiny triangle. So we're just going to lay it down and trim. And then once I remove the pins, we have a shape that's not quite rectangular anymore. It's rectangular on 3 sides, and then this one's angled. What we're going to do is take our other 2 pieces, because we have 4 squares, and we're just going to trim the other 2 to fit on top. So I line this one up. I'm gonna trim. Okay, so we have all 4 pieces cut. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one of each side. And on my front panel, I'm actually just gonna stick a pin real quick so I know where that line is. On each side, I'll just show you real quick what I mean. Just stuck a pin at my waistline that I have so that when I flip it over, I can see how high up my pockets need to go. So I'm flipping it over, and face to face, I'm going to make sure that my pockets are kind of the right way, so when I flip it over, they're going to be face to face, and just like the back side, that is the side of my ankle. And then I'm just going to stitch up these on both sides. So it's in place, and then I'm just going to pin. Okay, so I have this pinned into place. There's a pin. And all I'm going to do is stitch this part, just a straight stitch right along the edge. So we got a straight stitch, do a little back and forth, or lock my stitch, and then I just do a straight stitch right up the side close to the edge. Okay, so that's what it should look like, and I'm just going to do the same thing for the other panel real quick. Okay, and now that we have both of our pockets on both of our panels, we're just going to iron this flat. Just going to open it up and iron. Okay, so we have this ironed out nice and flat. And then what we're going to do is, just like our other skirts, we're going to sew our faces together now. So what we're going to do is make sure our sides line up, our ribbons line up, but also our pockets line up. And then when we start sewing, we're going to sew all the way around here rather than straight up the side like we would on a regular skirt. So I'm just going to pin this one side. Now, the last step, just before we're about to sew, so we have our pocket in place and we have it pinned. And like I said, we're going to start from the bottom, and usually we'd come just right up and sew straight to the top. What we're going to do is come up, and we're actually going to come up a few inches into the pocket, because this is going to be our opening. So what I'm going to do on each side is start from the top. I'm just going to make sure I can fit my hand into there once I have my pocket in place. So 6 inches, I think that's a pretty good space for a hand. So right where the top of my pocket is, I'm going to draw 6 inches right here, and I'm just going to mark it off. Do the same thing. I'll do that when I get to it. Okay, so the same thing, we're just going to do a straight stitch. I'll explain it as I'm going. We're going to go straight to that mark that we, oh, where is it? Right there, that mark that we just marked. And then we're actually going to go back and then all the way around the pocket, right to the top of the skirt. So that's the important part, to make sure you come up and then come back. So however wide or however long your pocket is, you can have a longer pocket. Like I said, I usually make a longer one, but you just need to make sure that this space is enough to fit a hand in comfortably after. So I say 6 inches. 6 is about good for my hand, I know that much. So I'm gonna go up, and there's 6 inches from there, and just make sure you're measuring from the top always 6 inches. Okay, so I'm going to start from I drew this on the wrong side. Just how I feed it through the sewing machine. Okay. I'm always going to have my fabric on the outside. So I had drawn it what would be the back side, because I'm going to feed it through like that. That's all. I guess you could, if I had drawn on that side, I could have started also from the top, and it still would have had my fabric on that side. The wrong stitch on. And if you'll notice, I actually keep my pins in while I sew. I don't remove them as I get to them. I stick them in perpendicular to my seam, not parallel. If you do stick them in parallel though, they need to be away from the actual seam, like at least an inch, otherwise you'll run over it. But if they're perfectly across, the foot can just run right over the pins. So I always just keep my pins in while I'm sewing. Okay, so now we have reached the bottom of our pocket, and I see my mark, so I want to continue going up the seam, and you can see we already have a stitch in place from where our pocket was. I'm just going to follow that right until our point that we made. So when I get there, I like to just lock my stitch. I'm not going to take my stitch out at all. What I'm going to do is turn the skirt around. But just to be safe, if you do the little back and forth stitch, I would do that there just to reinforce right where that pocket opening is. So I'm just going to quickly lock my stitch again. And then I have my needle still in, and I'm just going to turn it back around. So my skirt, turn the other way. And I'm going to come back to the bottom of my pocket. same thing, come back on the same line we just did. I'm just going to keep on sewing around the edge. So I'm sewing around my pocket edge all the way around and then up to the very corner of the top of my skirt. I'm going to serge this one after, but if I didn't have a serger, I would do the same thing that I did with the first skirt. I would just reinforce that stitch on the side again, just to make sure that it's not going to rip anywhere there. And then I'm just going to repeat the same thing to the opposite side. Pin, mark where my pocket ends. So from the top, I'm going to measure 6 inches again. Top of where my pocket wants to end. I'm going to reinforce it, turn around and keep on going. Okay, I have my 2 sides sewn together. I'm going to remove all the pins. And then I'm going to flip it inside out. So once I flip it inside out, you can see along the seam where our pocket is, but it's quite hidden. So I can stick my hand there, have quite a bit of room, you see. And I'm just gonna iron this flat out. So eventually, when we get to the part where we are putting our elastic in, These will be ironed over onto the same side because when we fold our skirt over, our seam from the top is gonna just come over the top of that pocket. So when you're ironing it, you wanna make sure your pockets are facing the same side. So I'll quickly iron it and show you what I mean. Okay, so I ironed my pockets out so that the sides are nice and flat and that my pocket is folded over to the front side. And then from there, I'm just gonna continue the way we had learned. We're just gonna do our seam around the edge, and then we're going to do our waistline the same way, where we fold it over. Only thing, just make sure your pockets are on the same side when you fold this over this time. Otherwise you'll have one pocket in the front and one pocket in the back. Once you sew this down, the pockets are going to be stuck there. Okay, and that's how you put a pocket in. We'll show you some other styles on some other skirts. Thank you.